tough times are coming. And when we get distracted by our own life in America, darkness grows and seizes the opportunity to do the unspeakable. Remember, don't let a good crisis go to waste. That could be spoken by Satan himself. Don't let a good crisis go to waste. And I told you in 2009, almost every day, chaos. Chaos is going to be the word for the future, and you need to be as far away from chaos as you possibly can. And chaos causes people to turn away. When the world shut down for COVID, what happened? The Chinese took Hong Kong. All of those hundreds of thousands of people that we watched march carrying American flags, hoping that the day of freedom was on the horizon for them. They didn't know at the time that the Wuhan virus brew was bubbling up and being worked on by the same government that was taking pictures of each of them and finding out who they were. As China forced the rest of the world into lockdown, as they were literally welding their people into their homes and sending drones to tell those trapped to fight the demons inside of you that tells you you should be free. While all of that was happening, we turned inward. We logically worried about ourselves, our job, our business, most of all, our loved ones. That's normal. That's why I tell you to prepare now, because those times are coming and they're going to be harder. As the government lies continued both here and in China, as they lied and distracted us and the rest of the world, the Chinese government was not distracted. Our government wasn't distracted. As to never let a crisis go to waste, they went door to door and they found the leaders of that freedom movement in Hong Kong. How many people does a government need to round up before the everyday citizen that was standing with them or thinking about freedom decides to shut up, sit down, or worse yet, turn on members of their own family or friends? We've seen this cycle before. It swept the world about 100 years ago. All for the good of the collective, all for science, eugenics, a new world, scientifically born. Good Germans sat down, said nothing, because they were worried about the food on their table. And I get it. But soon, because of that, it wasn't their biggest concern. How many that they worried about feeding were soon made into sausage by the war-hungry machine? How many of the sweet children they tucked in tonight, just a few short years later, had been so indoctrinated in some sick, twisted ideology of death that they would even turn their own parents in? Most people don't realize the Germans whispered, not only because the Nazis might have listening devices in their house, but also because in many cases, those listening devices were their own children. They had become activists for an evil state. And it happens the same every time. Divide and conquer. Divide the races, divide the religions, divide the parties, and then reunite as many people as you can under this new ideology and make them into zealots. This new ideology is as old as time itself. Evil just puts on a new face time and time again. Last time, it just put on a nice Hugo Boss-designed uniform. And it convinces a new generation that doesn't remember the past, the conflict, the chaos, the poverty, that system creates and then exploits, is enough to keep most people busy and not looking up or forward. I want to talk to you today about entering this time period because we are here. And may I ask, are we already tired of the news of Hamas and Israel? Are we already done with that? I mean, Ukraine in my opinion, is bad guys versus evil guys. I don't know who to pick because I don't see a good guy in sight on either side. But this one is truly good versus evil. And this one doesn't require us to fight the battle. We don't need to fight. They're not asking us to fight. They would just like some support when they fight. It's been over a week now, just about a week. And the world is going back to normal already. In the first few days, Israel didn't stand alone. The images and the atrocities were so clear that the world had a slap across the face, and they woke up for a minute, sat up in bed. And then with breathtaking speed, normal assumptions are reasserting themselves. Is this just intellectual and moral laziness? Suddenly, all the politicians, news outlets, again, speaking the language of the cycle of violence and proportionality. Israel shouldn't go too far. What? What do you mean? There is no moral equivalence here. The sides are not equivalent. There is no symmetry here. There is no moral equivalence. There is no Israeli oppression in Gaza and no Israeli war crimes. Not that they're perfect. They're not perfect. We're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. There's plenty of misery to go around. And there are plenty of war crimes. And there's one reason. Because there is plenty of Hamas. We all know how Biden economics have really turned this place around, right? Right? Aren't you feeling the glory of Biden economics? What do you think Hamas does? And just like Biden economics will blame someone else, Hamas has the built-in recipe. All they have to do is blame the Israelis. But every piece of human suffering in Gaza is on Hamas. Want more peace? Have less Hamas. I don't know anybody that has a bloodlust to have more innocent casualties. But you know what? You can't go into another country and kill people's moms, dads, their children, and then hide behind your own children. Your babies are going to get hurt. And that's on Hamas. That's not on Israel. Every innocent harmed in Gaza is on Hamas. Israel is exactly like us. We do ridiculously expensive things. Do you know how much our missiles cost? Do you know how much our bombs cost? Because they're all smart. They all have computers. They all have cameras to be used once and then destroyed. Do you know how much that costs? Why do we do that? Because we are for life. We're for life. That's what never again really means. Life. But that's not what it is. That's not what it is with Hamas. They want all Jews dead. They want to wash the world in Jewish blood and then our blood. That is the highest aspiration for their children. A martyr's death, preferably with a side of dead babies, apparently. They love death. We love life. This is what they shout. They love life. We love death. They chant that. Those are not my words. That's Hamas's word. So how is it we're going to sit down and have a conversation with people? See, this is the problem we're having in America. We're not at this divide, but we're close. Have you seen the protests all over the Western world? Have you seen the protests here in America that are supporting Hamas after the killing of babies and children and moms and dads? Have you seen the videos? This is the beginning of the end of the Western world. We used to stand for something. And believe me, The Israelis are not asking for America to join and come in the war. They're not. They'll fight it themselves. Nobody is looking for a kumbaya of nations. Nobody. They're just looking for somebody just to stand up and go, "You're okay. You're okay. I understand." We all have to pay attention right now, or we unfortunately will not be able to pay attention at all for a very long time. What do we tell our kids about the world? What do we say about never again? Is it even a thing? What do we tell? Is there such a thing as an enlightened civilization, a community, a nations? Are we all part of it? Or are we all on our own? There is good and evil, and what used to make America different and the Western world is that there was a standard that was universal and absolute, and it was for everybody, not just this side or that side. It was for everybody. It wasn't up for negotiation. It does mean we both have choices, and some of those choices are right choices, and some of those choices are wrong choices. Is there any nation that still remembers that? We don't have to tell our children, and the Israelis don't have to tell their children that they're alone or they're helpless, like our own politicians are telling our own kids, that they're dependent on the world's goodwill. They have to look to a politician. No. We have to tell them the truth. And Israelis have to tuck their kids in tonight and tell them the truth. They have to bear the truth as they grow up. They will have to hold up the light of truth. They will need to make sure that they are on God's side. And if they're doing it, God willing, there will still be Judeo-Christian nations who will stand with them. God willing, if we tell the truth, maybe we can all begin to look at our retirement and what we want to do when we finally all grow up.